two narratives, one centering on Miss Canada, the winner of the most virgin beauty pageant, whose virginity is intended for taking by billionaire bachelor named Mr. Capital, the other focusing on Anna Planeta, a rogue communist revolutionary who believes the time is now for communism, as she lures people onto her boat with the head of Karl Marx, begin as surrealist comedies, expressing absurdist views on sexuality and offer visual gags, but gradually transgress into highly graphic and disturbing displays of sexual gratification involving children, urination, vomit and defecation. This is Dušan Makavejev's deeply infamous and highly controversial Sweet Movie, a 1974 surrealist comedy drama that still causes intense discomfort in the present day due to its unflinching portrayal of taboo sexual spectacles, especially a scene where Anna Planeta dances around children inappropriately, and scenes filmed at Otto Muehl's Viennese commune with detailed actionist performance art routines, including the smearing of fecal matter and drinking of urine, actions which are not staged. Sweet Movie is incredibly difficult to define, and due to its content it is bound to offend many viewers. It is also still banned in many countries decades after its release. The film's central narratives devolve into an excessive ugliness and chaos, making them increasingly more challenging to follow. Sweet Movie is intentionally difficult to dissect, and Makavejev was protective of the film's intended meaning. Roger Ebert, in his 1975 review of Sweet Movie, in reference to Makavejev's directorial trademark, wrote that he considers Marxism, sex, violence, capitalism, political crimes, and bizarre methods of personal contact in a way so radical and original that his movies are subversive of our everyday assumptions. He's like a Bosch, making connections through hallucinations, deciding for himself what things look like. And what does Makavejev want to tell us with Sweet Movie? I don't know. I've seen and admired all his previous work. I heard him speak last weekend. I've read articles on Sweet Movie and I could paraphrase their comments and his for you. But the movie ultimately seems an unstructured descent into Makavejev's obsessions about his subjects. Roger Ebert even expresses the difficulty in examining Sweet Movie. Initially, during its more comedic scenes, Sweet Movie is surprisingly approachable and can be very funny for its absurdist observations, but Sweet Movie delves into Marxism, violence, sexuality, capitalist exploitation, and war crimes via seemingly unstructured digressions that stem from its two central characters' experiences. For example, when Anna Planeta gradually washes and bathes the young sailor she nicknames Potemkin because he looks like a sailor from Battleship Potemkin. The young man is warned to leave the ship as it is filled with corpses, a detail which we come to acknowledge as a reality as Anna Planeta's murderous intent is revealed once she has groomed her victims with sex, confectionery, and her odd sense of hospitality, to which Potemkin suggests that the world is filled with corpses. Makavejev juxtaposes with this statement a figurative world filled with corpses with the literal, as he edits in real footage of people uncovering the victims' corpses of the Katyn massacre, a massacre intended to damage the Polish military's power, as Stalin was concerned with Polish prisoners of war resisting Soviet rule. This is a lot of information to take in within a short sequence, but Makavejev seems to be reinforcing Potemkin's statement that the world is indeed filled with corpses long into decomposition. The focus on the Katyn massacre is intriguing, albeit morbidly so. Stalin was worried about Polish prisoners of war fighting back against the authority that oppressed them. The film's Marxist approach to surrealism, Anna Planeta's narrative is highly critical of authority, as her boat boasts of its own transgressive lawmaking where molestation and murder is acceptable as some deranged form of counterculture. In an absurd way, the Katyn massacre footage is almost like foreshadowing of the film's later events, where Anna murders Potemkin, as well as the children she had lured onto her boat, with promises of sugary confectionery and sex. And like the sugar, the promises may offer glimpses of sweetness for Anna and her targets, but the reality is that such excess can cause rot and decay. An excess of Anna Planeta is death. Anna Planeta is a character who believes the rise of communism is upon her and Potemkin. This is the belief in the rise of communism in wider society, or even the rise of communism on her own boat, led by her own deviant actions. If communism is an organised system where property is owned by community, then with this understanding and the acknowledgement of Anna's unconventional character, she may view her body offered up for sex to children as a form of property owned by a community. Her body is the property, the community are the children she invites onto her canal boat. If we apply communism to her sexual gratification, then therefore the murders she commits, the killings of Potemkin and the children, could therefore be illustrative of a fall of communism, a prediction. While Sweet Movie was released in 1974 and communism fell in 1989 due to revolution across Central and Eastern Europe, if we view Sweet Movie as an assessment of communism, if Anna is a communist activist to the most extreme example, we can view her actions as an exaggeration of challenging capitalist norms. Therefore, Sweet Movie could be predicting an inevitable fall of communism in Europe. As the corpses of the children reawaken at the film's ending, this could be the seeds sown for communism to blossom in another form, into an evolved state. While this interpretation has not objective truth to understanding Sweet Movie, Dušan Makavejev's enigmatic nature towards Sweet Movie certainly encourages the viewer to interpret these oddly strung together sequences in a manner that would make most sense to that viewer. When approaching the Miss Canada storyline, the other narrative found within Sweet Movie, which equally delves into uncomfortable transgressive territory, it is significant to remember her character as the winner of the unconventional beauty pageant title of Most Virgin. Miss Canada was a sexually restrained character before she was established in the film, which is even reinforced by the awkward first night she spends with Mr. Capital, screaming at the sight of his urinating penis. At this early stage of the film, Miss Canada is sexually reluctant. As we watch her storyline unravel, her sexuality becomes gradually awakened in absurd situations, a highlight being sex with an actor at the peak of the Eiffel Tower, interrupted by nuns desperate for a photograph with a famous face, only to cause penis captivus, causing them both to be stuck together. This absurd sequence is genuinely hilarious due to its unlikely setup, and it fits well within the film's tone of sexual liberation to sexual extremism. A crowd gather around Miss Canada and the actor, with leering, jeering eyes and commotion, entertained at the unusual sexual spectacle, similarly to the audience viewing the film at home. Miss Canada gradually becomes adopted by a commune recognisable as the Friedrichshof commune, a commune led by actionist artist Otto Muehl. Miss Canada's storyline ruptures into a cacophony of urination and defecation, leaving her character physically shaken and disturbed by the sexual extremism on offer. And Carol Laura, who played the role of Miss Canada, was also genuinely disturbed by these actions and the direction of Makavejev's script that she, very understandably, quit the production. To understand why these scenes delve into such excess, the viewer needs to know Otto Muehl and what his Viennese actionism art movement was. In his obituary, written for the New York Times, Margalit Fox wrote about Otto Muehl and his actionism, stating that, a founder of Viennese actionism, a school of radical performance art that sought to upend what it saw as the stultifying bourgeois conventions of the post-war years. Mr. Muehl was known for art in a range of media, including painting, live happenings, and movies of his work by him and other filmmakers, that was banned and exhibited in seemingly equal measure. Mr. Muehl splattered his nude subjects with paint in live performance and on film, but he also splattered them with soup, juice, milk, egg whites, blood, the internal organs of freshly slaughtered animals, and in a coup de grace that appeared to follow the foodstuff to its inevitable conclusion, fecal matter. It should also be noted that Mr. Muehl's subjects, far from being idle, were, per his carefully worked out choreography, generally having sex at the time. With Gunter Bruss, Alphonse Schilling, and others, Mr. Muehl founded actionism in the early 1960s. Though he made his art on canvas at first, over time he came to believe that the human body itself should serve as the canvas for his raw, uncompromising aesthetic. A controversial figure, released from prison in 1997 for having sex with minors at his Viennese commune, Otto Muehl is physically present during the Miss Canada narrative during its most shocking moments, performing graphic acts of his brand of performance art. When we see the members of this commune eating excessively, playing with their genitals, urinating over each other, defecating onto plates as they dance around and smell the stench of shit, and pretending to be a giant baby who urinates and and defecates all over themselves. This is what Otto Muehl's Viennese actionism is. It's using bodily fluids and waste as the paint, and the human body as the canvas. It is the sexualized excess which Miss Canada and ourselves are to be disturbed by. An early scene within the commune is a moment of gentle beauty, when Miss Canada takes the penis of a man who sits next to her during a dining sequence, which ends up in vomiting and using food as paint as people kiss and fondle each other, with food as a main component in their sexual gratification. She rubs it gently across her face, tears rolling down her eyes. It is difficult to gain a literal meaning here, but if Miss Canada was a sexually repressed character at an earlier stage in the film, then at this stage, as she holds the penis, she may be coming to terms with her own sexuality, and latter free, consenting sexuality is a beautiful thing. However, this scene may be interpreted. It's a moment of gentleness that is disrupted by the rest of the commune's chaotic excess that is truly horrifying, like a visual violation. The images and scenes captured within this commune are not pleasant, nor are they particularly appealing, as Miss Canada may be coming to terms with a freer sexuality and sexual expression. This is tested at its most extreme, as is our own sexuality and sexual expression, and it leaves her and us in a state of shock and disgust. It's almost as if Sweet Movie teases the viewer regarding sex. Yes, you're an adult who may enjoy sex, and you may embrace sex positivity, but how sex positive are you truly? In a very simplified understanding, the scenes set within this commune are much like an endurance test. It is difficult to watch, and yet Makavejev encourages us to watch on as these performance artists consent and express themselves freely. If Sweet Movie offers a Marxist perspective, then the sexual excess of the actionist commune could be reflective of the sharing of property or the redistribution of wealth. The commune is a community equally contributing to their extreme sexual desires, and each of its members gets as much back as they put into the performance. To support Makavejev's interest with transgressive imagery and political ideology, within Makavejev's obituary written for The Guardian, Ronald Bergen stated that he met with official disapproval at home and several of his films were not shown commercially in his own country. This was not surprising, because Makavejev was an independent and anarchic spirit, most of whose films studied the interrelationship of sexual life and socio-economic structures, while experimenting with narrative forms that challenge traditional notions of filmmaking. Makavejev had a reputation as a filmmaker for radical independent filmmaking and anarchy in the form of experimental narratives which portrayed sex and societal forms, similar to how within Sweet Movie Makavejev brings sexual liberation and taboo sexual extremism into focus as Marxist reflections. Whether the viewer interprets the difficult scenes of Sweet Movie as visual metaphors or not, they could easily and understandably be viewed at face value as grotesque shock value. It is easier to agree upon one thing: the extent of these graphic demonstrations is not exactly necessary to convey Marxist meanings and narratives. It is scenes like this which continues to perpetuate controversy around Sweet Movie, further reinforcing its reputation of infamy decades after its initial release. In conclusion, Dušan Makavejev's Sweet Movie is likely to always remain controversial for its extreme sexual spectacle and its embrace of the taboo. Alongside the uncomfortable visuals is also Sweet Movie's unconventional manner of connecting digressions to its dual central narratives, making the film rather difficult to follow at times. However, the film's reputation and cult following, despite the film's rather mixed critical reception, is understandable, and the film isn't without merit. Makavejev expressed a great intelligence for visually extensive metaphors, and the unstructured, complex nature of Sweet Movie demonstrates the director's natural ability to engage the viewer with challenging concepts, from the limitations of sexual liberation to the possible pros and cons of communism. Sweet Movie will always polarize audiences, and in its own gratuitous, grotesque manner, that makes Sweet Movie timeless.